Hello. Okay, ready to go? We're going to have a talk on hemp innovations, and do you know all the members here? Hey, we'll introduce ourselves and go with our little CVs of what we're doing. What I want to talk about, I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about with cannabis, you know, but what I want to talk about now for an innovation, something that's new since the last couple of years, is hempcrete. Now, I know hempcrete isn't new, it's as old as the human civilization from what we're gathering, but moving it up into the 21st century, what we've done is moved away, or what I've done, I suppose, is moved away from the traditional hempcrete, which is made with hydraulic lime. Do people know the history of how hempcrete got started? It's fascinating. I'll take 1 minute to let you know. The cigarette company Job, who makes cigarette papers, because of European regulations, they couldn't use tree paper for the cigarette papers because they're called food in Europe, and there was too much dioxin in it. So they actually had to grow hemp to make the paper that was pure enough to pass the regulations for the cigarettes. Forget what they put in it, but that's the way it started. And because they only used the bast fibre, the herd was left over, so innovative people started hempcrete building. But in Europe, they have a stuff called hydraulic lime. Right? It's not the same as hydrated lime, hydraulic lime. And that's got these things in it called pozzolans, which allow it to set in a very special way. Now, when we first started playing with hempcrete here in Australia,
Show it around.
no, we're going to talk on one topic each.
Okay.
You know, there's 4 topics, so we'll get 10 minutes on each one. That's the sort of the plan. Yeah. You know, where was I up to there? Hydraulic lime. And we thought, I mean, I didn't even know what the term meant. So we tried every lime mine in the country to find that Australia didn't have hydraulic lime at all, because the pozzolans weren't included when the lime was laid down. So we initially had to use French binder, and I think Clara's worked out a binder that has some sort of cement product and things like that. But we were looking for something new, so we introduced magnesium oxide as part of the binder. As people may know, hempcrete has got herds, the chip fibre, and binder, and the binder can be made of different things. We selected magnesium oxide and ground blast furnace slag in equal quantities. If anyone's interested, we can talk about the ratios, but we'll talk about that later. And we found that was a very, very successful setting process, and in my experience, at least equal to, if not superior to, the French product, which gave us a lot of encouragement. Hempcrete is an ideal building material in Australia. It's fireproof, it has better thermal and acoustic insulation than any other product. It's a really winner all round. The thing that I've added, and I suppose the innovation that I want to talk about today, is using the hempcrete material. At the moment, it can only be used as an infill, so it's not licensed and registered as a weight-bearing material. Right, so you can only use it as an infill, and the benefit of hempcrete construction is not being realised because regulations holding up how we do it. What I've done is made a few models of multi-storey hempcrete construction. It's a very simple matter. You put formwork up. It's all right, mate.
Wait, we've got to share it around.
No, we've got a whole hour. We've got
it could be good just to do some basic introductions.
Let's do some basic introductions, shall we?
Oh, right.
Let's do that.
Oh, okay.
We should share it around. This is Richard.
No, we're going to
Richard,
introduce
please.
ourselves as we go.
Introduce yourself.
Hang on, okay. No, what we're going to do is introduce as they talk about the topic. Like, just do one. It's all right, mate. Hey, it's good.
Can you
I'll finish it.
Yeah. Finish up what you're doing.
Yeah, I will. Okay, yeah. The important thing, I mean, timber is a big issue, and the cost of building material. The way we're constructing now, you put up the formwork, which is very simple, just structural ply, whatever you've got. Put it up. You use LVLs. In the future, we can use hemp I-beams and things to put across, and then formwork is put under, and you then cast the roof, which is the floor of the next story. So the only timber in the whole construction are the LVLs which support the formwork. It's an excellent form of construction. The costs of construction are dramatically reduced. More importantly than that, there are no gaps in the construction. Problem with buildings, when the brick meets the timber and the plaster meets the brick and all the rest of it, that's where things fall apart. If you build a house where the floor, the walls and the ceiling are all in continuity, The thermal and acoustic insulation is dramatically improved. The resistance against ember attack in a bushfire is dramatically improved, and it's a winner all round. So we hope to see great progress in the types of hempkeep construction in the near future. It can really transform the way we live our lives. Anyway, I'll pass it on to Richard Gasser now.
I'm Richard. I think I came about 5 years ago. I came to Nimbin, and I think the first time I met Martin in Mullumbimby at some restaurant, and he showed me this stuff that he made, and it looked like plastic, and I kind of realised there was just another thing hemp could do, and I ended up coming to Nimbin, and I ended up being part of Martin's group of people that we were into the hemp, all into the hemp stuff, and I think we spent about 3.5 years building a grinding machine and a dryer and everything like that to prove that the concept worked, and we made it all happen. And we did make a few things in Nimbin, made in Nimbin, not quite with Nimbin hemp, but I'm kind of working on the process of making stuff from local. Yeah, they. So I kind of came to Nimbin because somebody said to me, you can grow your own home, and that's kind of been my little thing. And about two months ago, I was able to turn the lights on. So I'm almost getting there, but it didn't really work out the way I had intended originally. But I do believe we can grow our own things with the help of hemp. I came to Nimbin and I told an old hippie dude at the thing I was going to grow my own home, and he said, we've been doing this for years, mate. We've been growing a bit of wheat and we go and sell it, and we go and buy some stuff at the hardware store, and that's how we've been doing it for a long time. So I thought, yeah, that's going to work for me too. So I ended up getting myself a hemp license, and I kind of met a couple of people, and some people offered me some camphor oil slabs, and I decided to make a weed-crete home. And Martin was the inspiration because he came up with this valuable weed-crete that we decided to use with magnesium oxide and magnesium chloride, and we ended up making panels out of camphor oil as the weed on the inside, and then filled it with camphor oil and a bit of hemp that we grew, and made tilt-up panels, and that seemed to work all right. But I don't know whether I'd recommend anybody to do what I've been trying to do. It's been fairly consuming, 2 years now, and it's all Nimbin time. And of course, I did invest my money into some things, and I'm kind of had to turn a couple of barrels of hemp flowers into hemp oils to do it Nimbin style, but it worked really well. And the hemp oil that we're making kind of from the hemp flowers, it's kind of it's part of the miracle that I discovered pretty much, because I kind of I only found out that cannabis was healthy about six years ago, and all the stuff that I've got on there on that thing is basically made or hemp related, or made from the beautiful little plant that's called the cannabis plant, and we can grow in the future smokable CBD. We can give it to our children and our grandchildren, and we can also give it to grandmother, which you can't give your THC to the grandmother without having the danger of greening a road. So CBD is a solution for a lot of things. We can also build homes, we can make walls, we can make instruments and pretty much everything, batteries, biochar, and there's really no limit. It's just that we need some young people who want to take it on, want to work hard at it, and go probably more than 5 hours a day, because otherwise it's also Nimbin time, everything takes 2 years. But there's a lot of future in hemp for a lot of people. We're going to have dispensaries, we're going to have bud tenders, and we're going to have 420 friendly areas. Hopefully Nimbin's going to be like an Amsterdam type of thing, where we can all have hemp soup and hemp smoothies and just live a healthy, hempy lifestyle. So that's my message. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ernegg. I've been working with hemp for the last nearly 40 years, especially in the industrial side, starting back in Europe when hemp was reintroduced more or less by the European government. And a quick notice here how they did it. They subsidized the farmers with 1,200 euro on the hectare at the very beginning, and all the farmers went crazy and started growing. So in the first few years we had an incredible amount of fibers, but no one able to process it. So if you look at the European kind of revival, the whole thing was pushed more or less by the government making fibers, and once over a few years when these stockpiles were big enough, slowly processing picked up. So the first was Pekela, run by the Tonks family. They rebuilt the old paper factory, set up a gigantic decortication monster, and kind of kick-started, let's say, the fiber production. Yeah, so that was kind of one thing, how it could work. And also, since I'm working mainly in the fiber world, so the bast fibers and also the woody parts and the celluloses, one thing we should look at the moment is the market for bast fibers. So be it linen or jute or hemp, and hemp is one of the best bast fibers we have in the world, is growing at incredible rates every year. So you've got roughly the market for bast fibers growing 8% roughly. And it's a multi-billion-dollar market, and Australia is sleeping. You know, we could have the possibility to be part of it. But if we again look at other countries, how did China do that? They looked 20 years in front. They said we're going to grow 100,000 hectares here and 1 million 10 years later there. At the same time, they set up the processing, and they're number one in everything hemp at the moment. So there are possibilities to get this started. And what I see for the future of all innovations here in Australia, it's going to be a side-by-side between hopefully a big industry and kind of small, not boutique, but innovative little entities that live side by side. Because certain parts of the so-called, you can do everything with hemp, you can, but often it's just not worthwhile. But for certain things, and I think Andrew picked it up yesterday, like paper, and hemp fiber makes the best paper in the world, I would say, in terms of quality. And these are things that we should look at. And I see kind of both things, small, innovative, like Northern Rivers Hemp Corp, kind of innovating things. But we do have to look at the bigger picture, because I agree we can change things on a small level. But if you really want to make change, you have to move tons. You have to move millions of tons to make a change in this kind of, you know, world out there to make a difference. It's a kickstart on a local level, but we don't make much impact. So we should push both sides, and kind of we will evolve hopefully together, the big industry and the small innovative companies. I could talk a little bit about my core competence. I've been working on so-called nanocellulose materials for 30 years. When I started back in the 90s, it was a very niche, very small kind of interest for the pulp and paper science. In the meantime, it's the #1 market future for the pulp and paper industry, and is kind of moving into a new kind of development of new products. And although it's an industrial technology, I'm doing the same thing with a tiny little machine here at home with a little bit of solar energy, and I still can make a product. I can sell it, but it's quite expensive at the moment, and can earn a little bit of money. So I'm using the same technology as the big industry would use, but just on a far smaller scale. But I couldn't do what I'm doing without machinery, without know-how. But it's always good to think locally, but the idea to just use your muscle to create something, it's not mine. So always good, even on a local level, think machinery. And we've got a technology in this micropulps, what Richard talked about. And I used to spray all items, all furniture, all didgeridoos by hand. And I'm very, very happy that we've got a robot doing that now. So kind of, you could say now, okay, that robot is going to take away my job, but I had that job, and I'm so happy that robot is spraying. Yeah. So innovation, yeah, but kind of, I'm a happy robot kind of owner. So far, I'll hand it to Gerald.
Hi guys.
Hang on.
Well, I'm just a hemp farmer. I just grow hemp and make things out of it. But what I really want to talk about is what that guy that's driving away is doing, which is pyrolysis. And for me, it's the final part in the hemp operation. And he's leaving now because he's got to get away, and he didn't get a chance to do his talk. But in hemp industry, the final piece of the puzzle for me is making it into a circular industry, and that's by using biochar, by turning it into biochar and doing it cleanly. So your man here, Robbie Tonks, he makes this little machine that separates all of the gases, degasifies carbon material, hemp for instance, and leaves the carbon behind and uses the gases to perform the operation. So there's no carbon dioxide, there's no footprint, there's no negatives to it. You're just collecting carbon and releasing the gases, but using the gases as fuel for the process. So you're not making any carbon dioxide in the process of making the pyrolysis. It's a beautiful little thing, and he makes it all from stuff he gets from the tip. It's simple and it's brilliant, and the concept of it is very simple and but just brilliant. It works perfectly cleanly. You can do it on a small scale, you can do it on a larger scale, and it solves our carbon problem. If it was done consistently by farmers across the planet, we would suck the carbon out of the atmosphere and put it back in the ground using this process. It's somewhere where we have to sort of go to. We're at that position now where if we are serious about taking carbon out of the atmosphere, this is the most practical and easiest way to go about it, and very effective. So I'm sad that you guys didn't see it in operation, but it's just a little kiln that he made, and it's gas operated to begin with, and then the gases given off by the plant are what cause the pyrolysis to happen, and you're left with carbon in your oven, some vinegars and wood vinegars that come out the side, and other than that, no emissions at all. And it's really brilliant. And that's the thing that for me, and I've been sort of playing with that for a long time, it leads on to a lot of things. It's pyrolysis, or having a carbon, just a pure carbon product, leads you on to all these other areas. So they're making batteries from graphene, and graphene is a form of carbon which you can actually make using hemp. It's a hemp-based thing. All of these other doors get opened up by this weird technology, old and simple technology, and yet ultra powerful. And yeah, I was hoping to introduce that to everybody, or hoping Robbie would, but no, he's decided no, he's going to head off. But
Thank you, Robbie.
so that's it from me, guys, and I'll pass you over to the next speaker.
That's it. Questions?
Oh yeah, questions. This is some of his product. This is some of his product, yes.
Yeah. And what do you do with that then?
Charcoal.
Yeah, so you bury it, the garden is. You'll have to speak up, eh?
If there's any questions.
Yeah.
want to go?
I just wanted to ask, what was the gentleman's name?
Robbie Tonks.
Robbie Tonks. Yeah. And can you find him like on YouTube?
Yes, he's got Australian Hardwood AHC. I think AHC it says. Australian Hardwood.
He's also living with charcoal on Instagram.
Oh, he's on that too, is he?
Yeah.
Living with charcoal on Instagram, yeah. Absolutely ingenious.
Go.
What's happening? Are we talking?
We can pass this microphone around if anyone wants to ask any more questions.
No one has a question.
No questions. There's nothing to question. We don't have any open.
That way that you mentioned about stockpiling the fibre, that's the exact proposal I'm putting.
Nanocellulose.
What?
Oh yeah, I want to ask about the plastic production.
Yes. Okay. I'll give you a short kind of idea of how these nanocellulose materials work. So think how a tree grows. It starts creating this cellulose molecule, then it links it together by hydroxyl bonding. So oxygen or hydrogen, it kind of links it together and does that a few times and creates this microfibril or nanofibril. So all linked together by little bondings. And as time goes on, the tree grows and links all these nanofibrils together with the same bondings to create a microfibril, to create a fibril, then to create a fiber, then it creates the cell wall, wraps the lignin around it and grows and grows and grows. So this kind of incredible energy that any kind of cellulose fiber out there, so cellulose is the stuff we make paper of, they bond together as soon as they are in water, kind of, and they dry up and they are close enough, they will link together to create an incredible strong, great bonding. So if you take this cellulose fiber and kind of mill it down back to that nano micro level, you increase more or less the surface area, you increase these docking stations on the cellulose for these hydroxyl bondings between them. And what also happens, since they are all wincy fibers, they kind of entangle. And as the water evaporates, or kind of that material dries, they shrink, they come closer, they entangle, and every time they are close enough, they will kind of link together. So these materials, as they dry, they get harder and harder and harder and harder till they go super hard. And that's just a natural process. So there's no glue involved, you don't need heat, you don't need pressure. It's just a thing that happens on its own, kind of. And this kind of idea is being slowly, kind of, I'm one of the first who used it in a process, is being seen as a possibility in the industry. So for normal people who work with so-called plastic, so a plastic is a moldable material. I wouldn't call cellulose these materials are plastic, but it's moldable. The great thing is it's renewable, so there's not endless, but an incredible amount of raw materials that you can use to create these materials. And you can even create them out of recycled waste. So you can kind of create materials, you can recycle them by chopping them up, because normally in the industry, especially in the fiber industry, you don't want those fibers to get really shorter. So that's the normal standard. You know, if you make paper, you can only recycle a few times. Fiber's too short, but with these materials, the shorter they are, the stronger the materials get. So if I keep recycling, my material's not going to get worse, it's going to get better. Yeah, and that's quite a, that's quite a point to start with. So industry is kind of picking it up, and kind of I see these are going to come to the market, and we unluckily moved our laboratory of production from Nimbin in Cecil Street, but it's set up again now in Nigel, and we're doing well.
Can I ask a question to you? A little while ago, there was a big excitement that they're going to make hemp plastic pallets, and the CSIRO invested millions of dollars in it, and everything was going to go forward. And then suddenly it was too expensive because they were using resins, and the price of the resins has gone up. Was that just like a sabotage of the industries? Because you can make perfectly good things without the resins at all.
Look, I don't know the details, but existing, let's say it this way around, existing technologies and processes, they wanna keep going. It's the same like the oil industry. They've set up so much stuff and machines, and they want to keep it going. So any new innovation will find more or less pressure from the existing guys out there who want to kind of save their own markets. And one thing, let's say for innovations, what I've learned over the many years that I'm kind of in this world, stick to it. If you have a good idea, stick to it. It might take your whole life, till it's accepted. And kind of very often you might be in front of the time, you're too early, no one is interested, and 20 years later everybody uses it. Look at polyurethane. A company developed that, made a patent, paid 20 years of patent, no one was interested, and now it's used in hundreds of millions of tons as a plastic around the world, and the guys who invented it, empty pockets.
Should be shot.
Can I just focus in on that plastic a little bit more while I still have the mic? In that you said the process of drying out fibres, and you're saying you can make pallets out of it, which is doesn't require heat or something. Is this something that, what is the setup for that fibres to dry out into that form?
Look,
is that accessible to other people?
Yeah, it's more or less like a fruit dryer. You've got a kind of a dry atmosphere, and the warmer it is, the quicker it goes, and you just dry it out.
With the fibre that's on the side of the hemp stalk.
I missed the question.
Which part of the hemp are you drying?
I mill a pulp like the paper pulp, and that's a wet pulp. Yeah. It's so sticky that I can mold it, and then I have to dry it. Yeah, but it's a processed fiber. It's the bast fiber of the outer end. Yeah. It's the bast fiber. Was that your question?
Hi Martin. All you guys have got these incredible innovations, thanks for sharing. But with your product, the hemp stone, and your extensive knowledge and experience in developing this machinery, where does it go past you? How do we share this so that there's young people coming in and learning what you have taken 32 years to learn, plus, that you can leave a legacy and that young people can jump on and learn perhaps from yourself?
Look, I'm planning to start workshops again. So a workshop is the easiest thing. Once in a month, there's going to be a workshop on that.
Fabulous. Yeah. Awesome.
Anyone know what the time is?
Yeah, it's 27:2. Oh, okay. No, it's not. It's 24:2.
Well, I would just like to encourage people to have a good vegetable garden and grow your own. And if you want to be a farmer, that's all doable. But farming is quite hard work. Processing is very hard work, and especially once you start going big and greedy, the fun almost goes out of it. So I would just encourage people to do small crops, and then to share amongst your friends and your family. And you can grow your own home. It's all possible, but it's a fair bit of work to do that, especially in Nimbin style.
If you were just putting the cord through a mulcher,
Is there a way an easy way to process the cord and then it's ready for hempcrete?
One of our mates did basically a chaff cutter, and then we had a Drommel, and I just used a couple of different bags underneath it. So it's all doable in a small scale. In the larger scale, it's a bit more expensive, but there's people know will be able to process your crop. There's decordicators like D8s running around.
But you can't use an ordinary chipper. It tangles up in no time at all. You'll spend hours with a blowtorch.
Yeah, I've spent a few hours undoing my little wood chipper as well. So I did have did mix my like it's called a Massport $1,000. Basically does it all, and does make little chips like little bricks, which you could make material out of straight away. But it's pretty messy, and you end up breaking a few things. But it's all doable on a small scale, but larger scales just cost money and dedicated farmers.
There are little cheap I've seen on YouTube and things, little cheap on-site processes involving scutching. See, the usual decortication involves big rollers, or these fluted rollers that break the herd out of the bast. But I've seen little ones in Africa that are just spikes on a spike that sort of claws at it and drops the herd that way. It's quite good. You can use, that's a coarse bast fibre, great for insulation. You can just bunch it up and use it as insulation as it is. So that you can innovate as well. I mean, you won't get industrial scale separation, but it depends what you're doing it for.
Love all your work, guys. I kind of have a question for all of you. Or Gerald, you talked about carbon, and I think that's part of the innovation to come, or what's happening now with the carbon market and the quantifying data of how much hemp can draw down into the soil, and so that's an extra income for farmers. And I just wanted to ask what's the hemp cooperative doing locally, and is that part of the innovative process of the future, working with those government models and that are happening on an international sort of scale now? Mostly to offset big emissions of the big company, big corporations and stuff, rather than
create something. No, it's the beauty of it is it's productive on every level. So what you're producing from saving the waste and gathering the carbon are lots of other things. You're separating out all the other minerals from it. You can do literally anything with it. You're breaking it down. It's very like what Martin does with breaking his things down to a molecular level, except this uses heat to do it. But it's actually a very similar process, and it's just refining things down to their finest level. What we're doing as a co-op with it, nothing yet, but that's an area that we really want to move into and will require funding. And we're sort of at that point now where we're ready to get funding. Yeah. We're ready to receive funding. Before now we sort of weren't ready for it, but
turn your phones off, please.
Yeah. Bastards.
Yeah, because I know they had the Hemp CRC, and they tried to go for the $200 million funding and stuff to get all of that happening, but it didn't get over the line.
Yeah, so what Jeremy was talking of was centres of excellence, and I think that's what we're sort of learning as we go, but I think that's where we're trying to get to. So we want to build a hub where Martin can have a workshop and be able to make his products, but also teach, also do those things that you were speaking about before, Lisa. Also teaching and putting out what he's going to do. Also, we want to be making paper. We want to be making soap. These are the small items, the low-hanging fruit, if you like, that we can do on a village level profitably. We can make a good living for the people of the village, for the farmers and the people that do it on a micro scale. And you can do it by product improvement and by value adding. So what we've had a lot of success with in the co-op is making cosmetics or oils, wellness oils. We're not allowed to say health, but we can say wellness, and we can say rejuvenation, we can say shit like that, which is what we do with the hemp oils. And really they're for healing. That's what they do, and that's where we're stuck. But that's what's making a living for the co-op at the moment, and that's the low-hanging fruit. But we're moving into paper. We're making money from soap now, and all these other things, and they're building up. We need a central hub where we can put it all together, and where we can have our brilliant artisans come along and develop their fantastic ideas. And we're ready for that. We're doing it.
Just add one word, the business about carbon and putting a monetary value on things like that, and the delusion that a polluting company can buy their way to heaven by, getting someone to grow hemp is sort of nonsense. My personal attitude is a scheme is not a vision. That's not a vision for the future. There are lots of ways to kickstart the hemp industry, and that's not necessarily one of them. And then you'll be home for that. It's like the buy-in scheme for electricity. It was 60 cents a kilowatt hour gross at first, and it whittled down to 13 cents a kilowatt hour. Crucified the industry, let it go, pull it apart. What happened in Europe, what was being described here, where they built up the stock, but that's what we want to do. We want to have a buyback scheme for hemp fibre. The only process you need in the intermediate is a decorticating machine. There are several models. Commercial models are available. They're not prohibitively expensive. The CRC, I attended their meetings and sort of tried to put some rational input into them. I failed, right? Because they're all just, I don't know what they're about. They're sort of just about money. But I said, but what's your vision? You should start with the vision and not raise the money first. You have, what are you going to do when you get the money? These centre of excellences are all very well and good, but what we need, for instance, is not that complicated. It's mature technology. Bast fibre spinning is very old, right? There's companies in Europe and China now, that will just sell you a production line for $200 million, and then you don't need a centre of excellence. You need a turnkey setup at the first. Then, when you've got this industry and that industry, that's when your centre of excellence comes along. The research doesn't need to be done, it's all there. Right? Really, it's a mature technology that's just being ignored. Right? That's my attitude. Get your basics right, get a textile company going. With what we've got, all the lines are already there. Right? So what we want, firstly, is a buyback scheme, because we don't, this business of raising money first. No, the government can buy back the fibre, support the potential industry for 3 years, whilst the money is raised by a public subscription or whatever to set up the mill, the whole line, and off you go, knowing there's a big stock of fibre. The farmers are on board. They can calculate how much income they're going to get, not like this bloody, a casino that the agricultural markets have become, where the farmers are always losing. Set a few prices, stay with them, give people a bit of certainty. They'll put plenty of hemp in.
If they can subsidise and support the cotton industry, surely they can do it for the hemp industry, right?
Well, look, they have spent $400 million on carbon capture and storage, on a bullshit scheme to inject their carbon into the ground. So stay there, right? Just back of envelope calculations, a 3-bedroom brick house outgasses 500 tonnes of CO2 in its creation. A hemp house of the same size, and that's by the old system, not by our new system, but it banks a net value of 50 tonnes of CO2. So every house that's not built from brick, that's built from hempcrete, is 550 tonnes of carbon, and that house is going to last as long as you want it to last.
Negative carbon footprint on your house.
Yeah, absolutely, to the tune of 550 tonnes per dwelling. So, a scheme is not a vision. The people running this are beyond stupid, right? It's not that they are stupid. I don't know what it is, bad or mad. I don't know what the agenda is, or they're just entrained in something, but every decision we're doing is mad and wrong. I mean, do you think I like driving down a bloody M1 and having some poor guy at your expense, on your taxpayer, picking up rubbish that'll never break down by idiots that have thrown it out of cars? I mean, what sort of madness do we live with? You can solve all your problems with something as simply as make all packaging uniform. It all has to be cellulose based. Then mixed waste can go through an ethanol plant with no problems at all, right? Rubbish has a value, and the scheme they got for bottles now is ridiculous. The 10-cent return, that's not working. We have to make uniform packaging laws. I mean, if I was sort of the emperor here, you'd have glass, you'd have steel, you'd have paper, various cellulose. Do people remember cellulose? a safe plastic made out of tree fibres. You know, it was all there. The crinkly plastic, you know, no poisons in that, it won't shrink your gonads. You know, we are really a bunch of losers. We're putting up with shit that we really shouldn't do.
Last time for questions if anyone wants to throw a question, otherwise we're going to wrap it up soon. No questions?
No questions?
Thanks for listening. Have a great MardiGrass.